Now these kind of problems have been giving headaches to algebra students since Napier invented algebra. But we'll try to make it a little bit more pleasant than that. Okay, so in the past, when we just had our x squared plus bx plus c, we were able to figure out how to find the middle and the last terms because we looked at which terms added together to give you the middle term and which terms multiply and what terms multiply together to give you the last term. In this instance, that won't work because we have this guy sitting out here. So the ones we were doing before were x squared plus bx plus c. These are a x squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are coefficients, and the x's are the variables. So coefficients are just numbers in this instance. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, how am I going to figure this out? Well, it's a little bit more complex. And there are ways and tricks and rules for them, but they're so hard to remember and they're hard to figure out. So let's use what we've done before, deductive reasoning, and what we already know. Well, we know that there are only two ways that we're going to get a 2. So our answer either is going to be 2x and an x, or it's going to be an x and a 2x, right? Because 2x times x gives us x squared, x times 2x gives us x squared. So we know that to be the truth, all right? Because this guy is negative and this one is positive, we also know that one of these guys is going to be a positive after him, so 2x plus something, x minus something, or it could be this, like that. Actually, that's the exact same thing, so let's change that. Let's change that. All right, so we know that to be the case, right? Since we know already what the first term is going to be, we have to look at this last term, all right? How many different ways can we make a 12? Well, there's 12 times 1. There's 1 times 12. There's 3 times 4. There's 4 times 3. There's 6 times 2. And 2 times 6. And that's a lot of work to figure out. There are a lot of different combinations. When you get to the statistics chapter, you'll see how that works. But essentially, let's go here. This is times. All right. So we only need to concern ourselves with the middle terms, right? Because we have chosen these, so we're guaranteed to get our last term, which is 12. We're guaranteed to get our first term. So all we have to do is look at our middle terms. So let's try it. 2, if we put in here, we do put a 12 here and a 1 here. Okay, 12x, negative 2, not going to give us what we want. So let's try 1 and 12. 1x, right? Negative 24, that's not going to give us what we want. Let's try another one. 3 and 4. 3x, you know, I think we're just going to go ahead and write these out. I was trying to take a shortcut, but I think it's getting confusing. All right, so we'll make it that way. So we have a 3x, positive 3x, and we have a negative 8x. No, that's not going to do it either. But it's so close. Look, we're right there. That's a minus 5. Oh my gosh, we're almost there. Well, let's just reverse those then. Let's try 2x plus 4. And then we have x minus 3. That for sure will do it, right? 4x. And this last term here will give us a negative 6x. No, that's not going to do it either. Darn. Let's try it again. Let's try the next one. 2x plus 6. And then we have x minus 2. That's going to be a 6x, right? And A negative 4x, that's not going to do it either because we didn't end up with that positive 5. Oh, let's try again. 2x plus 2, x minus, get rid of that, x minus 6. We end up with 2x, and we end up with negative 12x. So none of those worked. But we still have this one over here. Well, we know that we got real close here, right? So what happens if I do this? What happens if I try that guy? If I do a 3 here and a 4 here, I got this, which would give us 6x, and this will give us a negative 5, negative 4x. No, that's not going to do it either. We need a value that's going to give us a positive 8 and a negative 3. Positive 8 and a negative 3. Well, what if I put a 4 here, x plus 4, right? And then 2x minus 3, that's a positive 8x, a negative 3x. Bingo! This is our answer. So I went through and looked at all of the different possibilities. And this is how you got to do it to begin with. Over time, you will start to recognize patterns because our brain is especially good at recognizing patterns. You'll be able to look at the numbers, and the only way this is going to happen is for you to go through this process each and every time. But you want to do it systematically. Like me doing it systematically this way, I had to run through all the numbers. Over time, you'll start to recognize patterns. Your brain will process it in such a finite way that you'll be able to pick out the answer sooner than later. Initially, it's going to take a lot of work. For instance, if we had something that was even more complicated, let me erase all of this. Something where I had a lot of possibilities, something, for instance, like, what if I had 12x squared plus 18x minus 24. Oh wait, that's not a parentheses. Here, look at all the different possibilities we have for 12. We have 12 and 1, 1 and 12, 2 and 4, I mean 2 and 6, 6 and 2. And over here we've got 6 and 4, 4 and 6, 24 and 2, 12 and 2, 24 and 1. There are a lot of different possibilities. But essentially what will happen over time is you'll be able to do a couple of things. One, you'll be able to see it right away. In this instance, you can say, I can probably simplify that because I know how to factor. I can factor out a 6, leaving me with 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. This is a lot easier to work with. But let's say I didn't have the luxury of being able to factor this out, if this were 25, for instance. Then you start to look at patterns. And again, the only way to get there is to practice. And that should give you some ray of hope. Yes, it's a lot of work, but there's no magical solution. There's no trick, no formula that's going to mean anything in the world to you, because memorizing without understanding doesn't help you when you need to apply it. By simply going through and practicing each and every time until you start to recognize the patterns, when you start doing that, then you'll be able to do factoring rather quickly. When we get to solving quadratic equations, then you'll see the benefit of that. When we get to the quadratic formula, you'll say, hey, why did he teach me all that stuff? There's a simpler way to do it.